Everybody, I am Brett Pape. That's Coach Bruce. And this is the Week 7 Coach Approach. Morning, Coach. How you doing this morning?
Doing fantastic, man. I tell you what, first time in here in the office, I've got my lamp off, I've got my lights off, and there's just enough light from the laptop and the TV in the background to be able to see my face. So looking forward to the games, man.
Oh man, this is a rough week though, man. I literally almost took my hat off, put a bunch of names in the hat to draw people
Yeah,
because you got six buys. You got Carolina out, Houston out, Tennessee out, Jets out, Dallas out, Cincinnati out, and that's leaving all of us wondering who the hell are we going to play today. So let's jump right into the 10 a.m. slate. We got the Atlanta Falcons 3-3 at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 3-2. Who wins? I've got Tampa Bay 24, Atlanta 17. Who do you like today, Coach?
somehow I knew you were going to be opposite of me on this one. So I've got Atlanta 21 winning on the road, Tampa Bay 17. So obviously the Falcons cover at +2.5, and I've got the under. So it's a coin flip. Like this is a game I went back and forth on, and for me it came down at the end to kind of feeling like, hey, Desmond Ritter's playing a little bit better right now, and I feel like at some point Baker's going to Baker,
Yeah,
right? If that makes sense. And so maybe this is that game if Tampa Bay can control the clock. But
I not so fast, my friend, as our good guy
I
on
love it, Lee Corso.
yeah, good old Lee. But I kind of differ with you, man. I think we
Yeah,
may see the end of Desmond Ritter today. I
we could.
love Tampa Bay's defense. I think that if they're not playing a great Detroit team last week, I think Tampa Bay is going to remain in the hunt for the South all year long. So, and I think we're going to see good old help me out with the quarterback's name. Heineke have a real
Yeah,
opportunity. I think this could be the week if we see him struggle early on. That pick in the end of the game last week for Desmond Ritter. I mean, you can only do that to your team so much before they have to make a move. But let's go ahead and we've got the spread Buccaneers -2.5 over and under 38.5. And you got the start and sits this week, Coach. Who do you like?
yeah. So speaking of Desmond Ridder, I don't have him as a must start, but it's ironic. Tampa Bay gives up 247 yards passing per game, which is 26 in the NFL. Ritter's QB3 over the last 2 weeks. Now, granted, he played the Texans and Commanders, so you got to put that in perspective. But he's completed 67% of his passes for over 600 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the 3 picks, the one last week late was a brutal pick. I don't have him as a start, but I mentioned him because by Mageddon, right? You've got the teams you listed. Dak Prescott not playing this week. Joe Burrow's not playing this week. CJ Stroud's not playing this week. So you've got 3 good quarterbacks not playing. So it's one of those situations, super flex. You may have to start Desmond Ritter, but I don't have him as a must start, of course. But starts for me for Atlanta or Bijan Robinson. It's a tough matchup. Tampa Bay only gives up 83.8 rushing yards per game, but that does hike up to 104 over the last 3 weeks. He's got 80 carries for 400 yards, 5 yards a carry. I like to see the volume come up. In the passing game, though, he's seen 32 targets. He's got a 77% route participation, 19% target share. So Bijan Robinson's a play for me. I've got Drake London, 7 or more targets in 4 out of 6 games this season, including 21 over the last 2. So I'm playing Drake London, and I'm playing Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith. I mean, I think what's crazy is those guys, if there is higher passing volume, those guys are almost splitting, and they're both relevant. They're seeing enough targets and enough receptions if one of them gets in the end zone. And again, it's by Mageddon. So you can get away with starting, both of those guys this week. So those are my starts for Atlanta. My sit is Tyler Algier. He's a flex option at best if you have to play him. Just 28% of the snaps last week and just a 6% target share on the season. He's almost non-existent in the passing game, so he's got to find the end zone with the lack of overall usage over the last 2 weeks. He's not scored more than 6 PPR points in a game since week 1, where he scored 24.4, so I'm sitting Tyler Algier. On the other side of the ball for Tampa Bay, I'm not starting Baker. Atlanta gives up only 179 yards passing per game, which is 4th in the NFL. He does have 7 touchdown passes in 5 games this season, but he's also thrown an interception each of the last 3 games. Only 1 game this season with more than 250 yards passing, and that was against the Chicago Bears, so take that for what it's worth. I'm sitting Baker Mayfield. I am starting Chris Godwin. He actually gets the better matchup this week compared to Mike Evans because against man coverage, he sees a 25% target share and a 33.3% first read share. They like to play more man coverage, so I like him better than Mike Evans this week, but I'm not sitting Mike Evans in any game. So you're playing Mike Evans still. Other than that, that's it, man. I've got those 2 guys, the only starts for me, and Baker Mayfield is a sit. Rachaad White you have to play him, he's a volume play. His efficiency numbers are not good. But again, it's by Mageddon. So if you have to start Rachaad White, you can. If you don't have to, I wouldn't.
Pretty much, man. This is such a weird week because it's
Yeah.
if do they have a pulse? Are they going to be on the field? The likelihood is if they are, with everything going on in the landscape of fantasy with injuries and buys, it's hard to imagine anyone actually sitting Rachaad White. But I agree, the matchup isn't that great.
I will say this, because
Yes.
Alex Johnson just said Happy National Tight Ends Day. I do have K. Dotton getting a touchdown this week. They gave up the 8th most fantasy points per game to tight end. So K. Dotton's one of my sleeper tight end picks.
As for Happy National Tight Ends Day, hey, let's get a Luke Musgrave breakout game today. I'd like to see that. Let's go to Jared real quick. Jared wants to know Elijah Moore or Darius Slayton. I think there's more of a chance that we're going to see Watson than we see Daniel Jones. I like Elijah Moore better than Darius Slayton this week. How about you, Coach?
You said it perfectly. I'll take Elijah Moore as well.
All right, let's move on to Las Vegas Raiders 3-3 at the Chicago Bears 1-5. Who wins? This is a weird week because not only do you have a lot of guys out, you got a lot of conflicting reports. Is it going to be Aiden O'Connell? Is it going to be Brian Hoyer? For me, I don't see why you don't play O'Connell. See what you have. But who knows who they're going to go with. If the last thing I read, it was Hoyer, so we'll see. But I got the Raiders winning 21-20. I like it to be a close game. Coach, what do you think? What's going to happen today?
Man, that's a tough one for me. I like to root for the underdogs. I was a small school Division III football player, so you see a Division II kid get an opportunity. Didn't play poorly last week. I think it was 10 of 14 for 80-something yards, if I remember correctly. I love to see Tyson Badgett play well. But I've got Raiders 23, Bears 13. I think the Bears struggle to score this week.
All right, Raiders are the favorite, -3. Over and under is 37.5. We both have, or I have the over. Las Vegas Raiders start for me. Josh Jacobs is the top 5 running back play for the week. I know we don't know what's going to happen at quarterback, but I'm still playing Devontae Adams, and I'm still playing Jacoby Myers. I'm sitting whoever the quarterback's going to be, whether it be a Hoyer or O'Connell. And then for Chicago, I'm starting Dante Foreman, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. I'm sitting your boy Tyson, and I'm sitting Darnell Mooney. Anything you would change with that, Coach?
I guess my question for you would be thoughts on Michael Mayer.
Okay,
I'm going to continue to say Meyer instead of Mayer because I like the Michael Mayer name. But
I hear you. I should have probably put him in as a start. I love him. You talk about national tight end. Yeah. This rookie class everyone talked about early on, he's starting to finally flash. Not finally. It's kind of weird. You and I are old school, and we're used to guys taking 2 to 3 years before they become something. Now everyone expects it to happen 3-4 weeks into their rookie year. But I love him. I'd start him if I had him. So I should probably add him to the start. So thank you for bringing him up.
There you go. That's the only thing I would add. I like Michael Mayer as well.
There we go. We got Cleveland Browns next. Okay, wait, here we go. First question. Let's get back to questions. Questions always take priority over our own content. Good morning, Coach. So he wants you to answer it. I don't blame him. I'd rather have you pick my lineups than me pick them. Do you start Addison or do you start Zay Flowers?
I start Zay Flowers. He's a wide receiver 1 in that Baltimore offense. I'm going to take him over Jordan Addison, who I was high on as a prospect, and I get Justin Jefferson is out, but I still think KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, those guys have a role there. So I'm playing Zay Flowers over Jordan Addison.
All right. I think I'm in the same boat, but I wouldn't be surprised with with Jordan Addison, he's going to get a heck of a lot more opportunity with JJ out. So I think either one of them could be a good play. Next one, let's go Cleveland Browns 3-2 at the Indianapolis Colts 3-3. Who wins? I just think that defense for Cleveland is as good as it gets in the NFL. I got Cleveland winning 24-12.
Yeah, I've got Cleveland 19, Colts 13, and I had it 19-13 before I knew if Deshaun Watson was going to play or not. It sounds like he's going to play, so I'd probably put Cleveland 24, Colts 13. I think 13 is giving the Colts probably more credit than we should in terms of scoring points this week. So that's Cleveland at -2.5, and then I've got the under, but now I would probably flip that to the over if Deshaun Watson is playing. So starts and sits for Cleveland. I've got Deshaun Watson. Full practice on Friday. Looks like he's going to be good to go. Colts allow the 9th highest yards per attempt and 12th highest passer rating and 9th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So I like Deshaun Watson. Jerome Ford, and he's given up 113.5 rushing yards per game, 11th most fantasy points to the running back position. So he's a start for me. If Hunt is out, even if Hunt plays, I still think he's a solid play at flex at best. And again, buy him again. I think Jerome Ford's got to be in your lineup. Amari Cooper, 6 or more targets in every game this season, includes 3 games with 8 or more targets. So I'm starting Amari Cooper. Who I'm not starting, I'm sorry, David Njoku I've got kind of in that yellow area, so he's not a must start, he's not a must sit. But again, there's only so many tight ends available. But no red zone targets this year and no deep targets this year. So even though Indy's given up 6th most receiving yards and 9th most fantasy points to tight end, I don't see the usage with David Njoku. So we talked about Elijah Moore. I had him as a sit if Deshaun Watson was out. Now that Deshaun Watson is in, we just had the question. I don't mind playing Elijah Moore this week. So for the Colts, man, I'm avoiding this offense altogether this week because of Cleveland's defense. The only guy that I will play is Jonathan Taylor. I think he's a guy that you've seen his usage now in each game scale up. I think this is a game that you're going to try to get him more involved. I hope it's not a situation where Indianapolis has to start throwing the ball a lot early and often because they get behind. I'm hoping JT gets an opportunity to really be a big part of this game. So he's the only guy for them that I'm starting. I hesitate to start Michael Pittman, and I hesitate to start Josh Downs. But it's hard to take Michael Pittman out of your lineup, especially if they get down. They're going to have to throw the football. So
they're going to be definitely going to be a negative game script.
You have to start Pittman.
Yeah,
I just don't like the matchup.
It's a tough matchup. I mean, when people start comparing you to 85 Bears or the defense of the Ravens, I mean, you know that they're doing some good things. Let's look at this trade question real quick from Andrew. Trade Devontae Smith and Nico Collins for Adam Thielen and Dynasty. That's a no for me. I love what Adam Thielen is doing, but no way and no how am I selling 2 young receivers for an older receiver at the end of his career. So I don't mind trading for Adam Thielen, but I'm certainly not giving up all that.
I'm not trading Devontae Smith or Nico Collins straight up for Adam Thielen in Dynasty. As much as I love Adam Thielen, what he's doing this year, I still will say, and it's hard to keep that pace in that offense for the remainder of the season, but love it for Adam Thielen.
Okay, let's move on. We've got Washington Commanders 3-3 at the New York Giants 1-5. You know, I saw you and I listened to podcasts all week long, and listening to podcasts from The Athletic earlier this week, and they're on the Giants to win this one, and I just don't see it. I know they played really well against the Bills last week. I don't know if they were just fired up to have a national audience watch them, but I like the Commanders winning 27-21.
Yeah, this is one that I think you're 100. Man, I think you're right. But this is one of those games where I'm like, he's gut feel.
Yeah.
But if Daniel Jones is now out, I definitely take the Commanders to win. But there was a part of me that was like, God, I kind of feel like this is one of those games, division matchups in New York. Daniel Jones coming back this week, but now that it sounds like
he's coming back. I don't think.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Now that Daniel Jones looks like he's out, I think it's definitely Washington. I think the score there is going to be. I'll have to flip it, but I've got it as a low-scoring game, 17-16. So I've got the under, but taking Washington.
All right, let's get into start and sits for this one. Starts. I'm going to keep firing up Brian Robinson, especially. What do you call it? Buy a Gibbon? What do we call it?
Buy Mageddon. Yeah.
Okay. I'm starting Terry McLaurin, and I really like what I've seen out of Logan Thomas the last few weeks.
Yeah.
I'm starting Sam Howell. I'm starting Curtis Samuel. I'm sitting Dotson at Gibson. For New York, Barkley's back. If he's back, I'm playing him. I'm playing Darren Waller, and I really like what I've seen out of Wan'Dale Robinson the last few weeks. I'm sitting Tyrod Taylor and all other skill players. Let's before we move on to our next game, we've got a question from Hunter. Should I hold or trade Gibbs Dynasty? If I trade him, who should I target? I'd rather hold right now. I'd rather hold and wait for a breakout game if you insist on trading him so that you can get probably what he was worth before the season. Right now, I don't think his value is quite the same. So I'm holding him as far as who I can target. Look, if you have rankings that you trust and you respect and you believe who puts those rankings out, just look at Gibbs where he's at in the rankings and try and trade for anybody who's higher up. That's kind of how I try and trade targets for me. So that's what I would tell you. Coach, what are you doing if you have Gibbs? You hold or you trading?
I think I couldn't have said it better. I was big on Jahmyr Gibbs coming out. I loved his landing spot. I get it. They added David Montgomery. We've seen what that usage has been. But now you've got Montgomery hurt. This is Gibbs in week 3 when Montgomery was out, 17 carries for 80 yards. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. Another chance he gets to be the RB1. I think Craig Reynolds is still battling some injuries. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I'm still holding Jahmyr Gibbs because again I believe in the talent. Dan Campbell wants to run the football, so I'm holding him for sure.
Okay, let's move on to one more question before we get to our next game. Tough injury week for running back 2. Every week's a tough injury week for running back 2s. But Jaylen Warren, Latavius Murray, or A.J. Dillon. Take A.J. Dillon out of the equation. That signing earlier this week tells me everything that the Packers believe in A.J. or don't believe in A.J. Dillon. It's Jaylen Warren for me. I like the matchup against the Rams. And Latavius Murray, I got to go with Jaylen Warren here.
Yeah, we're going to differ a little bit, and we've talked about Najee Harris, so I get why you go Jaylen Warren. I feel like Latavius Murray is getting a little bit more usage, and I think he's going to be a guy in the red zone that can give you something. So, I just gut feel. I think Latavius Murray has the bigger week this week.
All right, so whoever you believe in more.
Unfortunately, you're conflicted.
Yeah, right.
We didn't help you out, Cam.
All right, hey, here we go. We've got Love or Purdy, Washington D, or Las Vegas D, or Seattle D. Okay, well, I'll let you handle the quarterback situation. I'll take a look at, and I know who you're going to say at quarterback. I'll take a look. I like the matchup for both quarterbacks this week, though. I'll look at the defense while you talk about the quarterback spot.
Yeah, I think Brock Purdy rebounds big this week. I like the matchup. I also like Jordan Love's matchup. To your point, I just haven't seen Jordan Love be able to put the. He's turning the ball over a little bit, and that's my concern with Jordan Love. Where with Brock Purdy, look, it was Cleveland's defense. We've talked about Cleveland's defense. He's had one bad game in 13 starts. He's averaging more than 2 touchdown passes per game in those starts outside of the Cleveland game last week. So I still trust Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey, he plays, is a big advantage. Obviously, for Brock, it opens up that offense, even if Deebo Samuel is out. So I still lean Brock Purdy because I trust the offense more.
All right, as far as the defenses, I'm going with Seattle. It's funny, in my rankings that I have Seattle's the 4th best defense of the week, Washington 5, Las Vegas 6. So there you go. You got all 3 of them all in a bunch, but it's Seattle for me. But I mean, I like the matchup for the Raiders against a rookie quarterback, and I like the matchup of Washington against Tyrod Taylor. So all 3 of those I would be good with. And then let's go back to Ryan. Are we starting Darrell Henderson in the Rams backfield? It's funny, on Wednesday's show, we were all Zach Evans. And then the very next day, all we hear from Sean McVay is Darrell Henderson. So listen, here's how and when we get to the Rams game, I actually broke the Rams game down. I need more information. And so if I don't have to start a Rams back this week, then I'm not going to do it. But with the situation with buys and injuries, if I have any of the Rams backs, meaning if I have Henderson, if I have Evans, if I have Freeman, if I have to start one of them, I'm starting one of them. But I don't feel good about starting any of them this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many conflicting stories. Guys that we know that are in the know that talk to people inside some of these organizations, and they're all conflicted. One guy will tell you Royce Freeman, one guy will tell you Darrell Henderson this week. I'm still going to believe that, yes, Darrell Henderson's familiar with the offense. Yes, he only needed a few days to kind of get in and get used to what's going on there. But I still think it's tough after only three practices to come in and be the guy, and especially see enough volume to be the guy. He could lead the backfield in touches, but I still think it's spread out between the 3 of them. So I don't trust anybody in that backfield this week.
Yeah. All right. We're kind of on the same page there. Let's go to one more question before we get back to the games. JT or Christian Watson? I like Christian Watson's matchup much better than JT. It's Christian Watson for me.
Yeah, JT's facing Cleveland, so I'm taking Christian Watson as well.
And then we got a question for Blake, but we're going to wait to answer this question when we break down the game. Who you got, Bobby, Ravens or Lions? So we'll hit on that one in a few minutes. Let's move on to – actually, we're going to hit that question right now. We've got
Detroit right now.
Yeah. Detroit Lions 5-1 at the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to let you say who you got since Blake wants to hear who you have. So why don't you tell us who you got winning this one first, Coach?
So this is a potential win game, win Gus, right? So you got to kind of take that into consideration. But Detroit's only loss this year is in week 2 in overtime to Seattle. They've scored 20 or more points in every game and more than 30 in 3 games. I'm taking the Lions 19, Baltimore 17, even in Baltimore.
I like it. I'm on the same page with you, man. I think what we're seeing in Detroit, this is going to be, it's going to be a hell of a game, first and foremost. I don't think either team should, of course, they're going to be disappointed, but I don't think this means anything as far as their hopes of a long playoff run if they lose today. But I like the Lions 24, Ravens 17 myself. Spread, we've got Ravens -3 over and under is 41.5. Start and sits, Coach. This is your game. Who do you like for Detroit in this one?
So, look, Baltimore ranks second in coverage grade per PFF, but there's not a ton of options for quarterbacks this week. I think I'm riding the hot hand. Jared Goff is playing very well. He's QB5 on the season. With San Francisco and Philly both losing last week, Detroit's now, in my opinion, number 1 in the power rankings. I know that you can look at that and say, hey, that could change, but they're playing the best football right now of those 3 teams. That can change, obviously. Over his last 3 games, Goff's completing 69% of his passes for almost 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. 11 touchdowns on the season, just 3 interceptions. I'm going to continue to ride the hot hand there with Jared Goff. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery's out. Craig Reynolds is banged up. He's a clear RB1. I think he sees RB1 volume this week, so I'm playing Jahmyr Gibbs because he can also hit you in the passing game. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're starting him every week. I don't need to go in the numbers. We know his numbers are great. I do want to say on that Baltimore gives up the 3rd lowest PPR points per target to slot wide receivers. So on paper, not a great matchup. But again, what Amon-Ra St. Brown can do in space, what he can do after the catch, and what Jared Goff's trust in him is, I'm not taking him out of my lineup. I'm not playing Josh Reynolds or Jameson Williams. They're outside the top 45 this week in terms of rankings. That puts them in that wide receiver back end, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 area. Starting Sam Laporta. I'm going to continue to trust that. He was a little bit banged up. I think he's healthy going into this week, so I like him. For the Ravens, you're not sitting Lamar Jackson. I don't care who he's playing. Detroit ranks 14th in fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. They're middle of the pack. He's a running quarterback, so I'm always going to love him. He's leading the NFL in rushing yards from the quarterback position. Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. I don't trust the run game in Baltimore. Detroit Lions rank 1st in fantasy points per game to running backs at just 47.2 yards per game on the ground. Zay Flowers, we talked about him. He's a start, double-digit fantasy points in 5 out of 6 games. And I'm starting Mark Andrews. I'm not starting Odell Beckham, Nelson Aguilar, or Rashad Bateman. They're all outside the top 55 this week, so not starting any of those guys. Any thoughts on that?
I like it. I mean, it's good. It's a tough game to look at. I mean, it's going to be a great game to watch.
Low scoring, I think.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's get to a couple questions. And some of these questions, man, guys, we don't know. This one's a tough one. Is CMC in? You know, they'll play till tomorrow night. My guess is they got an extra day. I feel like they will play him. So, but that's something you got to have to monitor. And it's difficult for you to hold a spot for CMC and possibly miss out on having a guy play. If you got CMC and you've got waiver wires and you're able to pick up a Mason or a Mitchell and you can just put them on your bench today and then make the decision tomorrow, that's what I do. But if you don't have that opportunity, you're just going to have to flip a coin and hope that you get the right choice. Another one is a decision you and I are struggling with because we have one team, the coach approach team in a league where we are sitting here wondering, do we put Metcalf in? And unfortunately, we got to make that decision prior to knowing all the information. I believe they're a 1:00 game today on the West Coast, which means we will not get their inactive list till about 11:45 time West Coast. So we're going to have to take a chance and just make a decision. So Sleepy, first and foremost, I feel your name this morning because I'm quite sleepy myself. But with that being said, I don't know. We don't have an answer for you until 11:45. So you're going to have to do with it like what we're going to do and just make the best guess that you can.
Yeah, not much to add to that. We're waiting just like you are. It seems to go back and forth. At one point, he was going to play and try to make it work. The other point, he was limited in practice. So we don't know until we see the reports right before game time.
All right, let's move on to our next game before we get into while I think this is my game. So while I break down start and sits, why don't you look and consider this question from Andrew? What do you guys think about throwing in some TV scores for some games for FanDuel? You're the prop bet guy, so I'll let you talk about that one here in a second. But first and foremost, Buffalo Bills 4-2 at New England Patriots 1-5. Buffalo, man, I don't see them holding anything back. I think they're a little disappointed in their performance on national TV last week against the Giants. I like Buffalo winning it away, 37-17.
Yeah, I've got Buffalo winning 24-17, so I've got them scoring a little bit less. I know there's a lot of rain. If I remember correctly this morning, if they get up to a big league, I could see them trying to pound the rock a little bit. But yeah, I've got Buffalo winning as well, covering the spread at 8.5.
Yep, over and under 41.5. Obviously, I have the over, and you are right at the number. Start sit for me for Buffalo. I'm starting Josh Allen. I'm starting Stephon Diggs. I'm starting James Cook. I'm sitting Dalton Kincaid, man. We talked about rookie tight ends. We need to see something from Dalton Kincaid just to feel a little bit better about what we spent to get him. So I'm not ready to put him in, and I don't want to start Gabe Davis today. For New England, man, if I don't have to, I'm not starting anybody in this offense. This offense is absolutely awful. You thought when they made the change to bring Bill O'Brien back, that would help things, but it certainly hasn't worked out. If I have to start someone, it would be Ramondre Stevenson. Anything you would change with that, Coach?
No, I think you're spot on there. I'm with you.
All right, let's move on to the 1 o'clock slate. We've got a game that I'm kind of excited to watch today, and that's the Arizona Cardinals 1-5 at Seattle 3-2. Who wins? I got Seattle winning 31-23. How about you, Coach?
Yeah, I got Seattle winning 27-14, which means the Seahawks cover at -7. Or I'm sorry, I did not change that, so that would be a 7-point win. Correct? No, that would be a 13-point win. So I got Seahawks covering at -7.5. Then I've got the over/under at 44.5. So the game will be at the under, just under.
There we go. Who do you like for start and sit? Again, we don't know much about Metcalf, but I like what we saw. This is yours, but I just want to throw one thing in. Never mind. I'll let you throw it in. Who do you like today, Coach?
No, throw it in, man.
No, I just hope that I just talked about hoping we see some life out of Dalton Kincaid. Well, I hope today, if Metcalf is out, even if he is out, or even if he plays, I'm real excited to see what we're going to see out of JSN today, because JSN's kind of ticking up. You saw his usage much better last week.
Yeah.
So if he's out, I saw someone say if he's out, JSN is a must start. Which, God, that just excites me, because I'd really like to see, some big things out of JSN this year.
Yeah, I would love to see it too. Slow start to the year, but again, you got Tyler Lockett, you got DK Metcalf, you've got Kenneth Williams doing really well in the run game, so just hasn't been a whole lot of opportunity there. But yeah, if Metcalf's out, I love JSN too. I'll start with the Cardinals. So I've got sitting anybody in that running back room. Seattle's run defense is first in DVOA and sixth in defensive EPA per rush, which is expected points added per rush. So they do very well there. If you look at week 6 last week, so the thing going to that game was with James Conner out, do you go Keontae Ingram? Do you go Amari DiMercato? Do you go who they just signed to the practice squad prior to the game, Damian Williams? Well, the reality is 36% snap share, 45% snap share, and 16% snap share is how that was rotated between those three guys. So, hey, pick your poison. I'm not touching that backfield, right? Nobody, in my opinion, really stands out there. I'm not starting Zach Ertz or Trey McBride. Now, it is by Mageddon. I get it. You may have to start one of those guys. That is a 50-50 split right now. So, in my opinion, they cancel each other out. There's not enough red zone targets there in that offense lately, with Joshua Dobbs not playing as well as he did earlier in the year. So I don't trust those guys. The only start is Marquise Brown, in my opinion. That's a guy that has just been consistent. He's wide receiver 15 in my rankings for this week, so I trust him. As far as for Seattle goes, it's a great matchup for Geno this week. Cards rank 32nd in pressure rate and allow the 3rd highest yards per attempt, 4th highest passer rating, and 5th most fantasy points per game of the quarterback position. I'm starting Geno Smith. I'm starting Kenneth Walker. He's the RB8 in PPR formats for the last 4 games played. 73% snap share. Zach Charbonnet is non-existent. He's also a little bit banged up with the hamstring this week. So I think everything wheels up for Kenneth Walker. Tyler Lockett is a must start. The Arizona Cardinals struggle against perimeter receivers. JSN has become the slot guy. This is good for Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf if he plays. I do not have DK as a must start because I don't know the injury situation, but if he is playing and he's full go, I certainly would trust DK. But Tyler Lockett to start, and then of course JSN bumps into an automatic start. I still think he's a flex play this week, even if DK Metcalf is even somewhat injured. I do like him this week. I'm not starting any tight ends. You can do the same thing with the Cardinals running back room that you can do with the Seattle tight end room. Noah Fant, Colby Parkinson, and Will Disley,
Yep.
all getting about the same targets per route run and all getting about the same target share. So I don't trust any of those guys.
Like it. And Sleepy, if Metcalf is out, I'm starting JSN for sure. I like that as well. Let's go back up to real quick to Dylan's question. Dylan, full PPR. Would you go Hunt? He is active. Henderson, JR. Who do you think JR is?
I think it's Darrell Henderson Jr. Is that?
Oh,
is what he put on there.
All right, fair enough. Or Latavius Murray. It's Hunt for me, Coach.
Yeah, it'd probably be Hunt for me too, if he's active. Now, God, it's a tough one, man, because I like Latavius Murray this week, but I trust Hunt and what he does in the passing game, especially in PPR format. So it's Hunt.
All right, Blake Nelson. I'm starting Michael Mayer this week and absolutely love it. What do you all think? Man, if I had Michael Mayer, I'd be starting him too, just because I love what I see. The only concern that we talk about is not knowing what you're going to get out of the quarterback room. Let's move on to our next game. Pittsburgh Steelers 3-2 at the Los Angeles Rams 3-3. I like the Rams winning this one, Coach. Steelers are traveling. I like the way the Rams have played this year. A lot of people thought they were going to tank for a top pick. They're certainly not tanking, so I like the Rams 24, Steelers 14.
Yeah, I've got it Rams 25, Steelers 22. I've got it a little bit closer with Kenny Pickett coming back this week. But I just don't – I don't see it yet. Deontay Johnson, is he playing? He's coming off the injury. Kenny Pickett coming back. There's some question marks there for the Steelers, and like you, Matthew Stafford's turned back the clock. His elbow is apparently fine. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp make an extremely difficult matchup in the middle of the field. So I like the Rams.
Okay, let's get in the start and sit. Actually, spread Rams -3, over and under is 42.5. Start and sit for Pittsburgh. I like Deontay Johnson being back. That guy is nothing more than a target. He's a target machine. I like what you possibly see out of him. I like Kenny Pickett, and I like Jalen Ward. I'm sitting George Pickens, Najee Harris, and because of the tight end spot with Freiermuth going on the IR, Darnell Washington's going to get in, but I'm not ready to start him. He's only got one catch on the year. Start and sit for the Rams. I like Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Sitting, like I said it earlier, I'm sitting all the backs until I have more information, and I'm sitting Tyler Higbee. Anything you would change there, Coach?
No, I like it. I will say that I do have in one of my prop bets this week, Darnell Washington finds the end zone.
You know what? I don't ever expect him to be a volume play, but I do think with his size and physicality, I think he's going to end up being someone that they're going to target a lot in the red zone when he gets going more.
Play action, bootleg, Darnell Washington back of the end zone.
All right, here we go. We've got Tutu Atwell or Logan Thomas full PPR. There are also waiver options like Everett, Musgrave, Ingram. Musgrave's my highest tight end listed there as far as on the rankings this well, but Logan Thomas is only a few spots back from him. So I like Musgrave or Thomas in this situation. What about you, Coach?
We're exactly on the same page. To me, it's those two. I lean Musgrave as well. Logan Thomas I think it was last week or the week before. We do these shows every week now. I can't remember which one it was, but there was an off game. But I do like Logan Thomas with Sam Howell in that offense. But I like Jordan Love and Luke Musgrave this week better. All
right, let's move on to our next one. Jerry Jeudy or Rashee Rice. Anytime I hear Rashee Rice, I'm like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm excited about what he can possibly do today, but we'll go ahead and take a quick look at that. For me, it is Rice.
It's Rice for me too.
But they're right there. They're wide receiver 36 is Jeudy. Wide receiver 37 is Rashee Rice. But I'm going with Rashee Rice this week. I feel like that's more of the ceiling play.
Which is crazy. Beginning of the year, we would have thought there's no way we're going Rashee Rice over Jerry Jeudy, but that's Jerry Jeudy right now. There's so much turmoil in that Denver locker room, and talk about just breaking that team up at the end of the year that I just don't trust anything on Denver right now.
Okay, let's go to one more question before we get back to our games. What game this week do you all think will have the most fantasy potential? And it's funny. I think it's the next game that we're going to talk about. I think you're going to see the Chargers in Kansas City. I think you're going to see a lot of good things happen for fantasy players in this one. But you also have the Sunday night game as well. I think that one with Miami and Philadelphia. But which games would you kind of pinpoint if you want to have guys playing in fantasy?
So I would take Chargers Chiefs as well, only because as explosive as this Miami offense is, it's the number one rushing attack in the NFL, and it's the number one passing attack in the NFL. But it's so that to me was like, okay, that seems like it would be the obvious pick. I just think if we'll get into that game because that's my matchup, but that's a game where I just think Philadelphia is going to have to try to. They can't continue to throw the ball 40 times a game like they've done over the last few games. Philadelphia's got to figure out a way to get that run game going, use the clock, keep that Miami offense off the field because that's basketball on grass, man. So I probably would lean that way, and I'll say that because Kansas City Chiefs defense I think has been really good this year. Justin Herbert hasn't really hit his stride yet and had that big monster breakout game. So I'd probably still go with the Miami game, but I would not be surprised if it's the Chargers Chiefs game. But I just picked Miami just because of the potential for scoring for both teams.
Wouldn't it be great if we saw like a 42-38 type of game tonight?
God, I feel like we're due for one, man. We need one. We need a big, explosive, high-scoring game.
All right, let's move on to the game that we just started talking about. That's Los Angeles Chargers 2-3 at Kansas City Chiefs 5-1. Who wins? I like the Chiefs winning 31-28. Spread Chiefs are minus 5.5, over and under 49.5. Who do you like in this one, Coach?
It's hard to pick the Chargers in any close game, right? They find ways to lose, whereas Kansas City always seems to find ways to win. And so to me, it's Kansas City Chiefs 27, Chargers 23. A little bit. So I think we've both got the over. I've got it at 50 points, which I didn't realize is only half a point above the 49.5 point spread. So I'm taking the over there.
All right, who do you like for start sits in this one?
For starts, I'm going Justin Herbert. Kansas City Chiefs ranked 5th in passing yards allowed. I get it, only 184 per game and 6th in fantasy points per game. But Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, CJ Stroud, we talked about it again. They're out this week. If you picked up Justin Herbert, he's your QB1. You're playing him against anybody. He has finished as a QB1 every week this season. So with an average of 23.2 fantasy points per game. So even if he slips against this defense, I think his low end or his floor is still a mid QB2. So you're starting Herbert. Austin Eckler, RB9 in fantasy points per game. His first game back, he scored only 10.2, but we know who he is. So I'm starting Austin Eckler. Keenan Allen, we don't need to talk a whole lot about the numbers there. The guy's a target machine. He's a 25% or higher target rate in 4 out of 5 games. So he's a play. I'm not starting Quentin Johnston. He's wide receiver 63 this week. I'm not starting Gerald Everett or Donald Parham. So I'm not starting that tight end room. And the only wide receiver that I trust is Keenan Allen. However, in deeper formats, I still like Josh Palmer.
Yeah.
So if you've got him, you're playing him, especially in deeper formats. So I will say Josh Palmer to me is more of a start than a sit. Just smaller rosters, maybe only 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, 2 running back spots. Maybe you got better options, but more than likely you're probably playing Josh Palmer. For the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, he's the QB. He's the QB5 in fantasy points per game this year, behind Tua, Hurts, and Josh Allen. And Justin Herbert. So in my rankings, now you might have him higher in yours, but we haven't seen the monster passing game yet, but he has thrown 2 or more touchdowns in 4 out of 6 games. So I like to play this week. Isaiah Pacheco, Chargers give up 14th most rushing yards per game. I like him this week. I'm not starting Jerick McKinnon. He's pretty much disappeared. So if your name is on Isaiah Pacheco, I'm not playing you in this backfield. And I'm not playing Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, MVS, McCole Hardman, anybody outside of Rashee Rice. He's the only wide receiver I like in this offense at the wide receiver position. And then, of course, do I have to say Travis Kelce? I mean, I think we all know Travis Kelce's playing.
We're playing him.
Whether the Swifties are there or not.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our next game. Green Bay Packers 2-3 at Denver Broncos 1-5. This is a tough game to pick. You know, Packers haven't played quite that well over the last few games. They are coming off the bye week. I do like them better than Denver, though. So I got Green Bay 31, Broncos 27. Yeah,
I've got a 31-21 Green Bay. And it's hard for me to put Denver scoring 21 points, to be honest with you. But Javonte Williams, another week, coming off the injury. I think you start to figure him out. Jaleel McLaughlin, they've got kind of a decent 3-headed monster in that backfield. It just seems like there should be a way for Russell Wilson to put some points on the board. And I think Sean Payton start to get a little bit pissed off about the heat they're taking offensively. So hopefully they try to put something together this week.
All right. The spread is Packers minus 1.5. Over and under is 45. Start sit for Green Bay, man. I'm telling you, Aaron Jones is back. I am playing him with complete confidence. I think he has a huge game. I think he adds a lot to the offense. I like him being back in. I'm playing Christian Watson. I'm playing Luke Musgrave, and I'm playing Romeo Dubs. I'm sitting A.J. Dillon, Jaden Reed, and I guess if I'm playing all the skill players for Green Bay, I'm also starting Jordan Love in SF if I have to. So what about you? Oh, sorry. Let's move on to Denver. I like Javonte Williams. I like the way he's played. I really like Jaleel McLaughlin and just kind of the burst that he adds to the team. I'm starting Russell Wilson. I'm starting Cortland Sutton. I'm sitting Jerry Jeudy. I don't know what's going on with him. There are a lot of trade talks with him, but not very confident starting Jerry Jeudy this week.
Yeah, I I don't have any confidence in Jerry Jeudy either. I was a Cortland Sutton guy when he went to when Russell Wilson got traded to Denver. I felt like Cortland Sutton was the better of the two based on the type of offense that Russell Wilson likes to play, which is deep balls on the outside on the perimeter, which I think favors Cortland Sutton. But Nathaniel Hackett was a guy that liked to throw it over the middle, which favors Jerry Jeudy. They've obviously moved on and now have Sean Payton. So I think it should have favored Jerry Jeudy with what Sean Payton likes to do, but it hasn't worked out that way.
All right, before we move on to your next game, which will be the one that we're really excited about, the Dolphins and Philadelphia Eagles, Sleepy likes your hat and says you guys are going to the Super Bowl. So apparently you guys are buying tickets because I don't think Dallas will be there. Let's go. Miami Dolphins 5-1.
That's mean, man. I'm with you, Sleepy.
Miami Dolphins 5-1 at Philadelphia Eagles 5-1. I got the Dolphins winning. I like what we're seeing, and I certainly don't think it's a for sure thing. But I like Dolphins 32, Eagles 30.
It's tough not picking Philly at home, but man, I've got Miami 31, Philly 27. So to answer people's questions before, that's the highest scoring game that we have, or that I have. I just think Miami's offense, they can do it in so many different ways. You lose Devin Achane, but you get Jeff Wilson this week, who has been historically very good at around 5 yards per carry over his career. So, and Raheem Mostert's turning back the clock at 31 years old. So it's just tough for me to go against Miami right now. They're playing so well. Start sits, I've got Tua Tagovailoa. If you're going to attack the Eagles, you're going to attack them in the passing game. They're giving up 232 yards passing and 19.9 fantasy points per game to the quarterback position. Tua is averaging 21 fantasy points per game on the year as a QB3, thrown for over 249 yards or more in every game this year, with 3 games over 300 yards, including the 466 in week 1, which was a track meet. So I like him. I like Raheem Mostert. Eagles do rank 3rd in fantasy points per game to running backs and have given up only 2 rushing touchdowns on the season. This Miami offense is just a different animal. There's some issues in the Eagles defense right now. He's RB3 on the season. He's averaging 15.5 touches and 95.7 yards per game. Leads the NFL with 11 total touchdowns and 9 rushing touchdowns on the ground, 5.7 yards per carry. Something's going to have to give. I'm going to lean in Mike McDaniel's ability to call a good game in terms of the running game. Jeff Wilson, to me, he's a flex play. If you've got him in deeper leagues, there are a lot of running backs that are hurt, a lot of teams on bye weeks. I am not afraid to put Jeff Wilson in deeper formats. I think he's a potential flex play with RB2 potential this week. And Tyreek Hill, we can go into all the numbers. We don't need to. He's on pace to get over 2,300 passing yards this year. His pace is just absolutely sick. And Jalen Waddle's a tough one. The Eagles like to play a lot of man coverage, and Waddle's target share drops to only 13.2% against man coverage. But again, I think Miami wants to put points on the board. They want to make it a track meet. They want to try to get Philadelphia to do something that's outside of their comfort zone. I think Jalen Waddle sees targets this week. I'm not playing Durham Smythe. He's dropped off tremendously since the first couple of weeks. For the Eagles, I'm playing Jalen Hurts. Again, Miami also, if you're going to attack them, it's going to be in the passing game. DeAndre Swift, I like this week. He's given over 60% of the snap shares now, so I like him there, and 50% of the rushing work. And he gets all the passing down work and 2-minute work right now. Kenneth Gainwell is not a threat to his volume anymore. So I'm not starting Kenneth Gainwell. He's a sit for me. I'm playing A.J. Brown. I'm playing Devontae Smith. I'm playing Dallas Goedert. You name a skill player, I'm probably playing him outside of Kenneth Gainwell for the Eagles this week.
I like it. I hope I like the game, man. It's supposed to be it's something that I'm looking forward to. Those are 2 pretty damn good teams. It could be a Super Bowl preview there, Coach.
Absolutely.
I know you and Sleepy are all over the Cowboys, but I think this could be a Super Bowl preview. Here we go. Who would you flex? Would you flex? We've got Mikey B408, Gabe Davis or Drake London. That's Drake London for me. And are you starting Jaleel or Wilson Jr.? What are your thoughts on the running back spot between those two?
Yeah, I'm with you on Drake London. The quarterback one's tough because, again, we talked about Denver, we talked about Jaleel McLaughlin. Yeah, but I think Javonte Williams is starting to really find his groove. So I trust Javonte Williams as RB1 in that backfield. Jeff Wilson Jr., first game back. But look, the reality is this. I don't think Mike McDaniel takes him off and puts him on the active roster unless he's ready to go. And he has shown he will use a running back by committee. So I like the upside of Jeff Wilson more than I like the Jaleel McLaughlin because Javonte Williams is a pass-catching back and should see most of the work there.
God, this is a tough one for me, man. I think we're going to differ. And I know I like Jaleel, so there we go. We'll go with that. Question, is Elijah Moore droppable at this point, full PPR? Redraft, yes. Dynasty, no.
That's the correct answer, 100%.
All right, next game, Monday Night Football. San Francisco 5-1 at Minnesota Vikings 2-4. I like 49ers 28, Vikings 17. The spread is 49ers minus 6.5. Over and under is 44. Who do you like in this one, Coach?
Yeah, I got 49ers 31, Minnesota Vikings 16. They can't stop a nosebleed. I think San Francisco's a bounce-back game coming off the first loss of the year. I think we see San Francisco put it together.
Agreed. Here we go. San Francisco start. I'm starting Christian McCaffrey. I'm thinking he's playing. I'm starting him. Love what we've seen out of George Kittle lately. I'm starting him. Starting Brandon Ayuk, and I'm starting Brock Purdy. If there's no McCaffrey, I'm starting Mason or Mitchell. If we do have McCaffrey, I'm sitting Mason and Mitchell. Yep. Start sit Minnesota Vikings. I like Kirk Cousins. I like Hawkinson, and I like Madison. I'm sitting Addison and KJ Osborne. Anything you would differ on that, Coach?
Yeah, I think what it comes down to there is every starter you have, I like. Everybody you're not playing, I pretty much like. I still think there's a sneaky in deeper leagues play for Addison this week as the wide receiver too. But San Francisco, man, defensively, they're so tough, man. I don't see it. I think Kirk Cousins is going to struggle this week. I think they're going to get after it. So I'm with you.
We've got one more question here. Richard Hernandez, need a flex, Ford, Cook, or Mostert? It's pretty good flex options right there. For me, though, I'm not taking Mostert out of the lineup, man. That guy is just – you have to play him. Jeff Wilson back or not, I got Mostert.
Yeah, I think as much as I love Jerome Ford, the potential is Kareem Hunt is now playing, is active. He's going to take a little bit of the receiving work. James Cook has struggled this year. I love the talent. I think he's going to get it going. I don't think it's this week. I'm taking Mostert. Yeah, I don't think you can sit Mostert with what he's doing.
All right. Hey, we appreciate the 12 of you tuning in. We appreciate the questions. We got one more question. Pablo, Hunt, or Freeman? God, the report that I just saw a few minutes ago is Freeman's supposed to get a lot of play today. But again, I don't want to touch that backfield, so it's Hunt for me.
It's Hunt for me too. Like people can say Freeman's going to get the work. I'd be shocked if he does anything with it. Freeman historically over his career has not proven to be anything. So there's a reason why he was a practice squad guy. So I'm taking Kareem Hunt and what he's done over the course of his career.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys all. Coach, don't leave right away. We got a couple lineup discussions we got to make on our own team. Everybody else, have a great weekend. Hope you survive the week, and see you Wednesday night. Let us know how you do. Wednesday night, see us 7 p.m. on Pacific Coast time for our weekly news, injuries, Thursday night preview, and our risers and fallers. Have a great day, everybody.